Hey, Mama, you're listening to Lift the Shame. I'm Crystal Cargis, mom of five, registered dietitian, lactation consultant, and a mother in eating disorder recovery. This is a space for mothers who are still healing while raising their children, the mothers who want to break cycles, soften shame, and raise intuitive eaters, while still learning how to care for the tender parts of themselves. Here, we talk about food, body image, motherhood, repair, and what it means to practice recovery in real life. You don't have to be fully healed to be a good mother, and you don't have to carry this alone. I'm so glad you're here. Today, I want to talk about one of the most tender and painful places in motherhood and eating disorder recovery. The moment you know better and you still react. Maybe it happens at the dinner table. Your child asks for more food, or refuses the food you made, or eats the dessert first, or reaches for another snack right after dinner, or says they're still hungry after what feels like plenty. And before you even have time to think, something in your body responds. Your chest tightens, your jaw clenches, your voice changes. Maybe you ask a question that comes out sharper than you meant it to. Are you sure you're still hungry? You just ate. Maybe have some fruit instead. That's enough for now. Maybe you try to sound calm, but inside something is racing. Maybe you don't say anything out loud, but your thoughts get loud. Why are they eating so much? Is this normal? Am I doing this wrong? What if they never learn how to stop? What if I'm letting things get out of control? What if I already messed this up? Or maybe the trigger isn't that your child wants more. Maybe it's that they want less. They barely touch dinner. They say something looks gross. They pick apart the meal. They ask for a snack 10 minutes later. And suddenly you feel the heat of frustration. After all this work, after all the effort to feed them well, after all the mental energy of trying to raise intuitive eaters and to not repeat the food patterns you grew up with. And still, there you are, activated, tense, more controlling than you wanted to be, more anxious than you expected to feel, more reactive than you thought you would be. And then comes the shame that says, you know better. You teach this. You believe in body trust. You believe children deserve food freedom. You believe in repair. You believe in not passing this on. So why did you still react that way? Why did that one moment feel so big? Why did your child's eating feel so threatening? Why did you say that? Why did you make that face? Why do you feel so much fear? That is the hidden shame I want to name today. The shame of being a mother who knows better, cares deeply, wants to break cycles, and still gets triggered by her child's eating. Friend, if this is you, I want you to know that you are not alone. You are not the only mother who has felt startled by her own reaction at the table. You're not the only mother who has read the books, done the therapy, listened to the podcast, taught yourself a different way, and still felt old fear rise in your body when your child asked for more. You're not the only mother who has looked at her child and thought, I love you so much. Why is this bringing something up in me? You're not the only mother who has walked away from a meal feeling sad, embarrassed, or ashamed because the version of yourself that showed up was not the version you wanted your child to receive. And I want to say this gently. Being triggered does not mean you are failing. It means something tender got activated. It means something in you heard that moment as danger, even if your child was simply being a child. It means your nervous system, your history, your body story, your eating disorder recovery, your own childhood memories, your own fear of harm, all of that may have entered the room with you. Even if all that happened on the outside was a child asking for another cookie, or pushing away the broccoli, or saying, I'm still hungry. Sometimes the moment itself is small, but what it touches is not small. A child's appetite can touch the part of us that was taught hunger was too much. A child's refusal can touch the part of us that learned food was a battleground. A child's body changing can touch the part of us that was watched, commented on, or criticized. A child's freedom with food can touch the part of us that never got to feel free. A child's desire can touch the part of us that learned desire was dangerous. A child asking for more can touch the part of us that learned more was shameful. And then we wonder why we feel so much. But maybe the question isn't, why am I overreacting? Maybe the question is, what did this moment touch in me? That question changes something. It moves us away from self-attack and toward curiosity. It helps us see that our reaction may not be about the child in front of us as much as it is about the story that got stirred inside of us. This doesn't mean the reaction doesn't matter. It does. Our words matter. Our tone matters. The mealtime environment matters. Our children deserve to experience food and their bodies with as much safety, freedom, and attunement as we can offer. But repair and growth don't come from shame. They come from noticing. They come from returning. They come from learning to pause long enough to ask, what is happening in me right now? I think one of the hardest parts of motherhood and eating disorder recovery is that we often carry two truths at the same time. One truth is, I want to protect my child from food and body shame. And another truth is, I still carry food and body shame inside of me. Both can be true. You can be deeply committed to breaking cycles and still have moments when the old cycle gets activated. You can believe in intuitive eating and still feel fear when your child eats in a way that doesn't make sense to you. You can want your child to trust their body and still be learning how to trust your own. You can want to feel neutral in your home and still have foods that don't feel neutral inside of you. You can be a good mother and still have moments that need repair. I wonder if part of the pain comes from believing that cycle breaking means we will never be triggered, that if we're doing it right, we will always respond calmly, always know what to say, always feel regulated, always trust our children's bodies, always be peaceful around food, always be the opposite of what hurt us. But cycle breaking doesn't mean you never get activated. It means you become willing to notice what is activated. It means you practice not handing your unprocessed fear to your child as a rule, a look, a comment, or a restriction. It means when you do react, you come back, you repair, you learn, you tend to the part of you that got scared. Because often, the part of us that reacts around our child's eating isn't trying to harm our child. It's usually trying to prevent harm. It may sound controlling, it may sound critical, it may sound anxious, it may sound like diet culture, it may even sound like the eating disorder. And underneath, there may be a protective part saying, I don't want my child to suffer the way I did. I don't want this to become a problem. I don't want to miss something. I don't want to fail them. I don't want my child to be judged. I don't want them to lose control. I don't want them to be hurt. The fear may be misguided. The reaction may not be helpful, but the longing underneath may be love. This is important. because when we only shame the reaction, we miss the vulnerable place beneath it. And that vulnerable place needs care, not permission to control, not permission to project, not permission to make your child's eating about your fear, but care. A hand on your heart, a breath, a moment after dinner to ask, what scared me so much? A quiet repair with your child if needed, a conversation with a friend, a therapist, dietitian, or support group, a willingness to say, something in me got activated and I want to understand it better. There's a difference between being responsible for our reactions and being ashamed of having them. Responsibility says, I want to notice this. I want to repair. I want to grow. I want to do the work of understanding what happened in me. Shame says, I'm terrible. I ruined everything. I should be past this. I can't be trusted. My child would be better off if I were already healed. Friend, shame will not make you a safer mother. Shame will make you hide. Shame will make you tighten. Shame will make you perform. Shame will make you believe that one hard moment means the whole story is ruined. But repair tells the truth. Repair says something happened. I can come back. I can take responsibility without collapsing. I can tend to what got stirred in me. I can offer my child something different next time. And I can remind both of us that one hard moment isn't the whole story. Maybe your child asked for more dessert and you panicked. Maybe later you say, hey, I noticed I sounded worried when you asked for more. That wasn't your fault. I'm still learning how to talk about food in a way that feels calm and kind. You did nothing wrong by asking. Maybe your child refused dinner and you became frustrated. Maybe later you say, I got tense at dinner tonight. I'm sorry. It's my job to offer food, and it's your job to listen to your body. I'm working on staying calm when meals don't go how I expected. Maybe your child made a body comment and you froze. Maybe later you say, bodies change and grow in lots of ways. Sometimes I'm still learning how to talk about bodies too. In our family, all bodies deserve kindness. These repairs don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be long. They don't need to include your whole history. They simply need to return safety to the relationship. They say, you're not responsible for my fear. Your body is not a problem. Your hunger is not a problem. Your appetite isn't a problem. Your preferences are not a problem. And I am still learning too. That last line matters. I am still learning too. Because we are learning in real time. We're learning while packing lunches, while clearing plates, while answering snack requests, while navigating birthday parties and Halloween candy and school food rules and grandparents' comments and growth spurts and picky eating and our own body grief. We are learning while mothering actual children, not theoretical ones. And actual children are beautifully inconvenient. They don't eat according to our plans. They don't always follow the scripts. They're hungry at odd times. They reject foods they loved last week or even yesterday. They eat more than we expected. They eat less than we hoped. They ask hard questions in the car. They notice bodies. They say things that make us want to disappear. And in those moments, our work is not to become a mother who never feels anything. Our work is to become a mother who can notice what she feels without letting fear take the wheel. Or when fear does take the wheel, to gently take it back. This is the messy middle, not the performance of being healed, not the fantasy of always being regulated, but the practice of returning again and again to ourselves, to our children, to repair, to compassion, to the truth that being triggered doesn't mean we are failing. It means something tender needs care. So today, I want to leave you with a small practice. The next time your child's eating activates something in you, whether it is more food, less food, sugar, snacks, picky eating, body talk, or appetite, try to pause and ask yourself 3 gentle questions. What am I noticing in my body? What story is my fear telling me? What does my child actually need from me in this moment? Not what does my eating disorder need, not what does my fear need, not what does the old voice need, what does my child actually need? Maybe they need a neutral response. Maybe they need more food. Maybe they need a boundary. Maybe they need reassurance. Maybe they need to hear, you can listen to your body. Maybe they need you to step away and take a breath before answering. And maybe you need care too. Maybe you need to journal or text someone safe or bring it to therapy. Maybe you need to come into a room with other mothers who understand this overlap and say, this happened and I felt so ashamed. This is part of why Lift the Shame exists. Because this work is tender and so many mothers are trying to do it alone, trying to raise children with food freedom while still healing their own wounds, trying to speak body kindness while still learning to believe it for themselves, trying to break cycles without a place to bring the moments that feel messy, complicated, or hard to admit. You don't have to hide those moments here. You don't have to be fully healed to be a good mother. And you don't have to pretend that being triggered means you are feeling. Something tender got activated, and that tenderness deserves care. And your child can still experience repair, safety, and love. Thank you so much for being here with me today. If this conversation names something that you've been carrying quietly, I'd love to invite you to Lift the Shame, my free monthly support group for mothers and moms to be in eating disorder recovery. It's a gentle space to be with other mothers who understand this overlap. Motherhood, recovery, food, body image, feeding triggers, and the fear of passing it on. You can find the link to join in the show notes. You don't have to carry this alone, friend. I'm so glad you're here, and I will see you next time. And until then, I'm cheering you on. Bye for now.